How's it going, everyone? I am Dylan. This is my cousin Carlo. This is All You Can Board. And today we're talking about a whole bunch of games that we played on a gaming weekend at a local convention here called Gameitoba. Kind of felt like a pseudo one of our little cabin trips, but just at a convention with a whole bunch more people. Carlo was there for two of the days, or an evening on Friday, and then a bunch of the chunk on Saturday. I was there for all day Saturday. So there's some games we've played together, some games that Carlo played without me, some games that I played without Carlo. Braden was in on some of these as well, so we'll kind of go through them all. Carlo's going to be taking a big chunk of them, the ones that especially I wasn't there for, and then some of the ones that started our Saturday. And then I will take the ones that came after that. We're going to talk about our experiences with those sessions. It's going to be very much like targeted about like those sessions of those games. Like it'll be our thoughts on the games themselves, but some of these we've only played once. A lot of times when we do videos like this, we also want to focus in on that session of the game that we had. Like, you know, if we're talking about a game that I've played multiple times, we've talked about on the channel, how was this session? Did it make us like cool on something? Did it make us feel even stronger about something? Things like that. And then at the end, we're going to talk about which 3 games each were the strongest plays. So again, that session, what was the most memorable plays that we had on the weekend? And then this will kind of color a little bit of what you'll see on the channel going forward for some of these games. You can kind of see how it evolved from basically us talking about it here through to when it eventually either gets reviewed or gets covered in other videos, how that landed for us. So let's talk about a little bit of our expectations going in, because going into a board game convention weekend, I know that we had like multiple discussions, not only like obviously the obvious is like which games you're going to bring and things like that, but also it's like which ones are your like must need to plays, what's like, how are you going to approach player count, all this kind of stuff. So why don't you kind of throw it into your expectations going into Gameitoba?
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is Gameitoba is the only board game convention I've ever been to. I haven't been to like any of the big ones that happen, you know, in the States or even across Canada before. This was the second time I've been to Gameitoba. Didn't make it last year, and a couple of years prior, I'd only made it briefly for a few hours. So this was the biggest sort of convention experience I've had so far. And especially when doing something locally like this, where we were planning to go with, you know, some of our friends, like in terms of arriving with them and planning specific games. And then we also knew other friends of ours or people we maybe aren't quite friends with yet, but like know, whether it's through the Discord or, you know, we've met them previously at Gameitoba. I was kind of going in knowing that like I probably know somewhere in the range of, you know, 15 to 20 people who are going to be there over the weekend. And so it's, and just to be clear, so Gameitoba is primarily focused on the actual playing of the games. Like there are some local designers, you know, trying to demo games. Some of the game stores have little shops and stands set up to sell games. But this one is primarily, I think, to go and play games. There's tons of games you can sign up for in advance. So me not knowing kind of what my schedule was going to be like or my ability to attend, I didn't really sign up for anything in advance. We just planned to set up at the Victory Pints table. Dave had 2 tables set up for us. So I was trying to strike a balance between trying to kind of like be able to chat with everyone I knew, at least for a couple minutes here and there, trying to play games with as many different people I knew as possible, but also not letting that be the sole factor dictating the entire weekend. Because if you're trying to always account for everyone and always playing, you know, these giant party games or games that go to super high player counts, then by the end you might have that. I was trying to avoid the feeling of being like, oh, but I really wanted to play this game that went to 4 players or 5 players. But, you know, those fun high player count games are really, really fun too, and especially in that type of environment. So I got there on the Friday evening. We started with an 8-player game of Hot Streak. So myself and Dave were the only 2 who had played it before. There were 6 new players. I had only played it once before with 6 players. I won't really get into the rules. We talked about this fairly recently in a Dig In or Move On episode, but sort of like a betting thing where you bet on 3 separate races. You make a couple bets before the race, you watch the race unfold kind of automatically, you don't make any decisions during the race, and you just see who has the most money at the end of the 3 races. So I will say everyone had a really great time. There were a couple people, one person at the table actually who had played it for the first time just went, see you later, ready, set, bet. I won't be playing that again. Like, as in like Hot Streak kind of has replaced it for them. Other people were like, no, ready, set, bet has the real-time betting. Like it's more involved, interactive. But everyone really enjoyed it. And even just reading out everyone's fortunes at the end, the one that made me laugh the hardest was someone was like, and like you start the game with $10, and I think someone ended with like 12 or 13, and it was like you use your couple dollars to buy your family ketchup or something. It's like,
I love that they include that at the end. It's just such a nice little bonus. Yeah.
So yeah, not much else to say about Hot Streak. Great time, everyone enjoyed it, and looking forward to playing it many more times. After that, we played That's Not a Hat. So we started playing, I think we played 1 or 2 rounds with 7 players, and then an 8th player joined. And this plays from 3 to 8 players. I think the fewest I've ever played it with is 5 or 6, so I've only played it kind of at the higher player counts. And the long and short of it is, it's just a deck of cards with little drawings on them just for like an object. Like there'll be a hat, or a lawnmower, a toaster, a piggy bank, an anchor, whatever. And at the start of the game, everyone is dealt a random card. They're all face up on the table. You all kind of announce them to the other players. You leave them face up. Then you put the deck of cards in the middle of the table, and one at a time, someone will take the top card, and whatever the gift is, they show it to the other players. They'll say, okay, I've got this, piggy bank. They show it to everyone. They put it in front of themselves. They pass it to the cards will basically have an arrow showing whether you pass it to the right or to the left. That's on the back of the card. And as the game goes on, you start like putting something face down, pass it. Everyone saw that I had a piggy bank. If I flip it down and say, here, Dylan, here's a piggy bank, Dylan has a chance to either accept or refuse that gift. You would only refuse if you think someone's either lying or you think they forgot and you don't think that what they're saying actually matches the card. Obviously, early on, the first few turns, everyone knows what's happening. Some of the cards are still face up. So Dylan will then say thank you. Then he will flip his other gift face down. You can never
I have to say thank you?
No.
Okay.
No, you absolutely don't. You can reluctantly accept.
Okay.
So after a few turns, people's cards start getting flipped face down, and you're starting to sort of remember, like, okay, so Dylan passed the hockey stick there. I handed him the piggy bank. I know that I have the anchor here. And the longer the round goes on, people start kind of forgetting what's where. And as soon as you say, I refuse this gift, you flip the card face up. If you were right to call that person out, they were wrong about what was there, they have to keep that card as a penalty point. If you called them out and you were the one wrong and what they said was actually on the card, then you have to keep the card yourself as a penalty point. The game is really funny because not only is there a memory aspect, but there can also be like bluffing, because you might know exactly what's there, but you can kind of ham it up a little bit and be like, oh, what did Dylan just pass me? Like, okay, let me think for a second. Meanwhile, like I might know what's there and I might go, take this toaster, and someone goes, that's not a toaster, and it might be in there. I might have been setting them up. Or you can also just play it really confidently and just always like, you might be thinking, okay, it might come back to me in a minute, it might come back to me in 3 minutes. As soon as it does, I'm just going to say like, yeah, this is a knife. No matter what, I'm going to say it convincingly. So it's funny because sometimes when the person makes a mistake, it's a lot of the time like it breaks your concentration. Everyone laughs and they're like, but so we just passed that to you. Like, I know. Okay, let's go. And then they're like, oh, and they realize like I already forgot the thing that I just got before too. Yeah. So a lot of the time it's just laughing at how bad other people's memories are. And yeah, it's a very silly game, but I think we played 3 rounds of it. I'd played it once before in a bigger group as well at Kilter Brewing locally here. And yeah, it's just a great time every time. It's not something, I think you have to be careful not to overplay it. Similarly, we talked about with Hot Streak before. I think it can lose its kind of charm after a bit if you play it too much, but great little game that takes like 10-15 minutes to play around. And if you play subsequent rounds, people start also thinking like, wait, was that in this game or was that in the last game? Is that object even here? And someone's like, no, that was the last game.
It's like hard mode playing it more and more.
Yeah, so really
what would you think, based on your experiences playing so far, if you had to pick one currently, what's your ideal player count so far?
Probably, I would guess maybe 5 or 6, maybe even 4. I think 3, you probably lose a lot. And I think when it goes to 7 or 8, the unfortunate thing is because you're at the mercy of the cards will just tell you, do you pass it left, do you pass it right? So sometimes you're on the other end of the table and you're not in the action for 5-10 minutes at a time. And it's fun, you're laughing at other people. But then like sometimes you don't get involved a lot, or by the time it comes back to you, you've forgotten so much. Yeah. And so I feel like it probably would be best at like between 4 and 6 if I had to guess.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but I'm always curious those games because sometimes the ones that go to like the largest player counts, it's like you find I only want to play those games at the highest one. But it's interesting to hear that this one's almost like a middle of the road is the ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, every time I've played at the higher counts, I remember thinking it'd probably be better with a little bit less than this. But yeah, that was a great experience. So that was all I got to play on Friday, unfortunately. I would have liked to have played something with let's say a little more meat on the bones than Hot Streak or That's Not a Hat, but still lots of laughs, and I knew that I was going to be there for a big chunk of Saturday. So yeah, great times, and got to play with some people I'd never met before. It's nice meeting them all, and some people I'd played games with before as well. Nice. And I will say, Raj ended up playing Hot Streak with Dave and a couple other people, a 4-player game after they saw us playing, and then Raj immediately bought a copy of Hot Streak. So of course. Winning fans everywhere it goes.
Nice. And that was it for Friday, right?
That was it for Friday.
So that took us into Saturday, where Carlo carpooled with him and our friend Raj, and we all went to Gameitoba I was there for the entire day. Carlo was there for like a large chunk of the day. Why don't you tell them about the first game we played, which is a brand new game to us, a Rainer Knizia game called Ego.
Yes, so Ego, published by Bitewing Games. This is a review copy we recently received, and this was our first play, so all 5 of us were learning. Credit to Dylann, he did a really great job teaching the game, and this is a re-implementation of an older game called Beowulf the Legend. I'm not too sure about like the exact changes that were made, and I'm not going to get too into the rules here because it's kind of one of those games, like even when Dylann was explaining it, we're looking at the boards, we're all like, I think we have to get into the game to really understand how it's going to click. But think of it as sort of a game of, it has like some auction type stuff, some negotiation kind of. I mean, it calls it negotiation. It's not really like negotiating verbally with your other players. There's like card drafting. There's basically a series of these, let's call them mini games. And the order that you're going to go through them together is kind of laid out from the start. You put these boards out, the first one and the fifth one are always going to be the same, and then boards 2, 3, and 4, there's a bunch to choose from. You mix and match them and you randomly distribute them, and basically you're going to move this little spaceship that shows which kind of like event you're in as a group, and you're going to just go one by one through all of these events until you get to the final spot of the game where you can kind of do some last minute stuff before you actually score your final points. And you basically are having a hand of cards, and you have some money, you have these little secret tokens you can get that have either like points or also money on them, and you're going through these little mini games, either gaining cards or playing cards to match a certain suit on the table. And there's these kind of events. Some of the events have to do with you have to keep playing or matching a certain value or increasing a value of that the other players have kind of set. So it's kind of like think of it sort of in poker where you have to like call or fold. There's kind of this thing where you have to meet a requirement or pass and then get out of the round. And the players who pass first are going to be like later in turn order for something later. So there's this kind of jockeying for position. You can kind of see what the possible rewards are. You know, there's 5 rewards up for grabs. Sometimes maybe one of the rewards is really bad, is actually a punishment kind of thing, and the other 4 are good. So you're trying to think like, as long as I don't get last, I don't really mind if I get first or fourth. I don't want to overcommit cards. Anything that you bid with that you like, whether you pass first, pass second, whatever, you lose everything. So you don't want to commit too much stuff to then get not a good reward. So there's kind of like trying to anticipate what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's interesting because like your cards are by far your most important resource. Like yes, you're getting credits and yes, you're getting the success tokens, but managing how many cards you have, and if you're getting low or if you have a lot, looking ahead and saying, okay, where am I going to be able to utilize all these cards I have and potentially take advantage of the fact that I have more than my opponents versus I don't have enough. So what are my opportunities to gain more cards, especially potentially of the icons that I need, because it'll tell you for this next negotiation, you need these 2 icons of cards. And so if you look at your hand and you say, okay, I got 1 wild and none of those icons, how am I going to compete? So what can I do to get those cards in events? If I can't, am I going to accept that I'm going to get that low or not even like low reward, potentially like a detriment coming my way, and am I going to like plan for the next one ahead? Like you don't want people to catch on to what you're doing, but when there's an open draft that happens often for cards, you'll get to an event space and it'll say, like essentially we're open drafting cards starting with the mission leader, and so you'll see what people are drafting, so that can come into play. And I will just say that with this being a first play, the one thing I know that I personally did, I mean, and not only do I know I did this poorly, I finished with such a low score compared to everyone else that I know I played the entire game poorly. But the one thing I would change, and I wonder if we all would, is I was committing way too many cards to the negotiations. I just found that because everyone else was willing to go really deep into it, in hindsight, I'm looking back thinking, if I had just like accepted the lower rewards or accepted things and kept all my cards early, I wouldn't have had to like find ways to get cards back, and then maybe I would have dominated the next negotiation by having to saved all my cards.
But then you never know, because other people would have then spent only half the cards they had to get their rewards, so maybe we would have been bullied. Like it's really hard to know what is a good strategy, or what, even in the moment, and looking back, it's hard to think really like what you would change.
Yeah.
And why don't you really quickly tell people about the theme loosely? It stands for what? Extraterrestrial something organization?
Greeting organization, I think. Or something. So basically you're trying to like, it's like the representatives of like Mars and Jupiter and Earth and all this stuff that are meeting alien species. And so like everyone knows aliens exist. We're confronting them and we're meeting them. We're essentially having to like have those relations go good. You want to impress them. You don't want to say something that you shouldn't. And so the reason, and like that's reflecting the theme in the sense that like the wild resource is charisma, because the idea is with charisma, if you're really good at it, you can talk yourself out of just different situations. You can convince them and things like that. And so we are going to all these different areas of the solar system, of the outer space on each of these boards, dealing with the aliens and trying to like have good relations with them. And the worse you do, you get these tokens that I'm forgetting.
Conflict
tokens, based on if that goes poorly and if it causes a conflict, you're getting these tokens. And if you have 0 of those tokens at the end of the game, you get 20 points. If you have
which is a lot of points.
It is. Like, I think that's more points than I ended up with my final score.
Right. I think the winning score was like low 30s,
yeah.
So 20 is a lot.
But if you get one of those conflict tokens, you immediately go down from 20 to 10. And then the diminishing returns, like it goes less and less. But eventually if you get to 6 tokens, now you end up having to, not only do you get 0, you actually have to give other success tokens. You have essentially points, give up points, which is what happened to me for having those conflict tokens. And so
I think it goes if you have 10 or more, you get negative 40 points.
Yeah,
so think about
insane.
The difference between having 0 of these for 20 points or having 10 at negative 40. That's a 60-point swing potentially from these conflict tokens. And there's a variety of ways you can get them, but there's also a variety of ways that you can get rid of them to try but sometimes you don't know, is it worth getting rid of these? Is it only going to affect, am I actually going to be able to get to 0? Because the difference between having 6 or having 4 of them might not really be that big of a difference, right?
Yeah, I really liked Ego. I don't, it's again, first play, don't know where it's going to ultimately land for me. I didn't play the original Beowulf that it was based on, so it felt very novel to me going into it. I want to play it again. It has a bunch of like Knizia style mechanics as these mini games built into one, so it scratches a whole bunch of Knizia itches at the same time. And I'm always itchy for Knizia.
Of course.
That's going to be the title of this video, itchy for Knizia. And so I'm really, really eager to play it again and just kind of see, especially using different boards. There's like little expansion boards you can add to each area of the outer space that adds more negotiation events to each spot as well, which is pretty interesting. So lots more to explore there. I just know that not having played it optimally the first time, that I'm leaving not knowing how it feels as a game you're strategizing around and like trying to like do well at. I'm more just experiencing it as I had a really fun time engaging with what it put in front of me. And like there was multiple times during the game where as I'm doing things, I'm going, this is cool, cool, right?
Yeah.
So
and very interactive. Like the moments there was some of those rounds where between the 5 of us played like 50 or 60 cards in this game of chicken, and like people were walking by being like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like it was a very good experience at a convention to have played that game for the first time. The one thing I didn't like about it is the same thing that you and I have talked about that we didn't really like about Le Havre, which is at the very end of the game, there's this very mathy part where you try to min-max your score. And because you have all these opportunities to trade in sets of cards or sets of tokens, like 3 of these for 5 points, 5 of these for 15 points. But if you're like 1 short, you can't do it. And I remember when that section came around, I kind of just like rushed it. I was like, okay, I'll do this. And then I realized afterwards, oh wait, if I would have done something differently, I could have scored 9 more points. I hope it doesn't come down to that. And surely enough, I got 2nd place and the 9 points would have made a difference. And it's not even that I was upset to lose or anything, but just that knowing that much of the end result can come down to like crunching your numbers properly at the very end, and then it might make the rest of the game feel not as consequential. So we'll see how that shakes out over future plays. Definitely want to play it again. Very interesting.
Yeah. And then as a nice little segue here, one of the cool things we noticed while we were playing was when you're doing the negotiation events, passing sort of opens up the door for others to pass for better rewards in a very similar way to a game called For Sale, which by chance, maybe that's why we played it next. We played For Sale next.
Love the transition. I didn't even consider that, but yeah, beautiful, Dylann. So yeah, we got a game of For Sale done in probably 15 minutes. It had been a while since we actually like played a 6-player game of For Sale in person, even though it's one of our very few Hall of Fame games. So yeah, we played it with 6 players, 2-phase game, bidding, getting different properties. Then in the second phase, using the property cards to get checks and most money wins. Won't really say much more about it for rules. We've talked about this game on the channel countless times. It went over extremely well. It was really, really fun, tight game, some good bids, some good trash talking. I don't really know what else to say. I mean, honestly, it was just reminded us, like, because we had played it so many times before, a lot of the time when we're playing small little filler games, we're like, oh, let's try this new one that we haven't tried, just because like we already know what to expect from For Sale. But this was kind of a reminder that like we should really make a point to play it a little more often just because of how reliably good it is. And I just think it's like a timeless game.
Yeah, I hadn't played it in a while, the physical version. And so it was nice to play it in person again. Yeah. And Dave even had a copy that was the tokens, because we have a travel version, and I really love the travel version, but the tokens in it suck. just because they're very papery and low quality. And Dave had these 3D printed versions that were done by a local place here. And so we got to use those, which was really nice. But yeah, just nice to play it in person again. I think that's the big takeaway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. After that was what I'm starting to think that like I'm going to find out later this summer is in Carlo's top 5 games of all time. And that's Challengers.
Not top 5. It's not top 5. No question it's top 50. I don't know how high it's going to go.
Yeah.
I'll make the game pitch quick enough. I know I've mentioned it in passing a lot in the channel. I haven't really gone too in depth on it, but imagine a sort of like the old card game War where you're flipping cards from a deck. It's sort of like that, but it's a 7-game tournament that goes up to 8 players. We played this at 6 players, and it's actually the second time I've played it at 6 players in person.
Yeah.
Actually, we did it just like about a month ago.
Yeah.
I was thrilled to play this again, and you basically have, before every matchup, you get to add 1 or 2 cards to your deck. You can remove as many cards from your deck as you want, then you shuffle it up, and then you do a capture the flag style game against your opponent where you just flip cards, and kind of sometimes they have abilities where you're prompted to do something, other times it just kind of automatically, the game's kind of unfolds, and then whoever wins gets a little trophy, tells you how many points you get. Then you get up from your seat, you would like take your little tournament card that tells you where to go sit, maybe at a different like arena, and then you get to do the thing again. You build your deck, add 1 or 2 cards, cut as many as you want. After everyone has played 7 games, mix and matching against the opponents, whoever has the 2 players with the most points face off in a final matchup. So I ended up getting to the final against Braden. Last time we played this, I did not make it. It was Dave and Raj who were playing for the first time. And I'll say right now, even the last time we played it, I didn't expect Dave or Raj to like it that much. And we did our little... When we play games these days, we tend to like nominate a few games before, and I won't get into it. We play this kind of selection game to see which game we play, and I was thrilled that Challengers won out. I wasn't expecting it to. So 5 of us had all played before, and then Michaela, who had never played before, joined us. And I think she was skeptical of it. I was skeptical to see how much she liked it, and she seemed to enjoy it more than I was expecting, and hopefully more than she expected. And it was just a great experience. Like, I think everyone won at least 2 or 3 of their 7 matchups. So it wasn't like anyone got, like destroyed or had a bad deck. Lots of close games. Like even Braden beat me in the final, but we also each won one of the games that we played against each other earlier. And he had these cards come up in a certain order, and that hologram card that like put 1 random card on my deck just completely ruined my deck. And it was like one of those things you have to, that's the randomness. Like if I was playing the game for the first time, I would have probably felt like, oh, I got unlucky, the game ruined it for me. But like since I've played it like hundreds of times on Board Game Arena, I know that that's a possibility. And afterwards, I remember thinking I could have accounted for that. I could have kept fewer cards in my deck to account for the fact that someone's probably going to put a hologram in their deck. And if I run into them in the final, that 1 card could ruin my whole strategy. So I don't know, the more I keep playing it, the more I find that the luck really isn't a factor. Yes, there's randomness, but the game is more about understanding the randomness and understanding the card pool more than anything. So what did you think?
I had a lot of fun with it again. I'll just say I've reinforced my feeling the last couple times we played it, where I just think that for me personally, I've hit my ceiling with Challengers, not in terms of how much I'm going to play it, but I mean in terms of how much I'm going to like it. Right. I don't think I'm going to like it more than I currently like it now. And right now, I think it's a good game, but I don't think it's a great game.
Like out of 10, if I put you on the spot right now,
I'd say a 7.
Okay,
a 7. Yeah, and that's,
I will say this: I think that eventually, when I do my deep dive review and tier list and all these kind of things, I will bet that it will go up to at least an 8 for you.
Wow. Okay, that's a bold bet. I can't wait.
Possibly higher, but we'll say at least an 8. I think you're going to appreciate it just a little more.
Just for context, I think I might have mentioned this before, but the reason why I think it is hitting a ceiling for me is just because me personally, I've played so much Hearthstone Battlegrounds coming into this, different kind of auto battler, not like exactly, not like a war style one, but because of how much time and hours I've spent on that game, like I spent more time on that game than you've already spent on Challengers now. Right. And so the depth and everything I've explored there and grown tired of at times and gone back into has made it that when I play Challengers, it like brings up similarities to that experience, but almost reminds me that like I like what it's doing here, but I liked it better in that. Yeah. And so if I had never played Hearthstone Battlegrounds, I wonder if I would be having closer to a reaction like you've had with Challengers, because this is like what you're describing is what I essentially had when I played that video game for the first time and realized like, oh my god, this is like scratching a crazy itch for me here.
And to be clear, I've never played any of the auto battle or video games. Like Challengers really has been my first experience. But yeah, it's true. Once you have that reference point, I mean, I just mentioned it with Taj Mahal going into Ego, and when we reviewed Fliptoons, I talked about having Challengers in the back of my head the whole time. So it's kind of hard once you have that thing planted. You're always like, but I could just be playing this instead.
This is a deep video topic one day. This is the games that are impacted by the games that came before them.
Yeah,
right?
True.
Okay, so the next game we're going to talk about is a game that neither of us actually played, but we bore witness to and we watched take place, and it was a riot as always, and that's Ready Set Bet. So Ready Set Bet had a full team, or a full player count, I should say, and Braden, as always, ran this amazing Ready Set Bet section of our weekend. But he also got to use the, I don't know what it's called,
the high roller edition.
The high roller edition that Dave was kind enough to bring for this. It's
like, how could we ever go back to the original
one
once you played the high roller?
Yeah, it's so good, and I think Braden is our high roller Ready Set Bet announcer. He's just so good at it, and so he ran a session for a bunch of people at the conference there. A couple of our friends took place. Carlo and I sat out, but we watched the entire thing, and yeah, it's just. Again, in what you said about a hot streak and people being like, this just replaced Ready Set Bet for me or whatever. I watched that game and said, this is why I like Ready Set Bet more than Hot Streak. Right. This is just me personally. I just find Ready Set Bet way more engaging and dynamic throughout, whereas the game part of it, of Ready Set Bet, where you're making your bets and having to read what's happening live, is more interesting to me than reading the deck in Hot Streak ahead of time and then seeing what happens. But seeing it happen live, yeah, there's not a ton more to say than we've already said. We talked about this in our cabin video way back when Braden ran a session for us at the cabin. It was just really, really great to see that it's still such a hit with people that are playing for the first time, have played it already, especially when you have someone that isn't as engaged as Braden is. I think ultimately I'm starting to believe that the more you land with Ready Set Bet is going to be very dependent on how good the person is running the horses.
Yes.
Because if someone was just saying, roll and say, okay, now we got 7. And now we've got 3, and everyone's like, I think I'll bet now.
And
that's a very different.
And isn't there an option to use a companion app, which I think would be even less interesting to just have the app going?
I think you have to have someone that's ready to embody that role and really call it out with the names and with the gravitas and with the tension, so that everyone else gets tense, being like, oh my god, right? Because that creates the anxiety in everyone, that a good anxiety to where I should place my bets. So yeah, it was just really fun to watch.
Especially because a lot of people were playing it for the first time.
Yeah.
It was great to see that experience. But I will say, whether it's been in our Discord or other places, I've seen the discussion come up a lot comparing not only Ready Set Bet and Hot Streak, but a lot of people have said that either of those games have pushed Long Shot the Dice game out of their collection in terms of a horse racing thing. I can't remember if you've played that one yet or not.
I can't remember now either. I think I might have played it once, or we almost played it.
And I've only played it once or twice, but I think that one is eventually going to leave my collection just in favor of Hot Streak. But I'm also anticipating there's going to be competition when we finally get our copy of, or I get my copy of Magical Athlete, the reprint from CMYK. I think I'm going to wait to get that and then see between that Hot Streak and Ready Set Bet.
We have to do a full comparison.
Yes, I think so.
We'll do it in the style of a race where the video makes you as anxiety-induced as
But it's just that aspect of a game where it's a lot of it is out of your control, but you're either... Yeah, anyways, won't get into comparing them much here, but Ready Set Bet. It's one of the best spectator board games that I've come across. I'd be happy to watch other people play Ready Set Bet anytime.
People were coming up and just watching the game because it was also such a loud, dominating thing. But they were coming over and watching because of how.
And it's one of the only games where everyone is standing. There's 9 or 10 people. Every single person is standing up and leaning forward, yelling. It's
so good.
Yeah.
The game we play after this. Carlo's gonna kind of lead this off, but very interesting Carl Chuck design, which is by Carl Chuck's the designer who did Innovation, and that is Panda Spin.
Yes, so this is published by Matago. It says on the box 25 minutes, and I think it played 3 to 5 players, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it may even be 2 to 5. I can't remember.
It might be 2 to 5, yeah. And so we also talked, another game of his we talked about on the channel in the past was a GNC. So Carl Chuck, for those who might not know, is kind of known as the master of multi-use cards. He always has games where his cards do, at minimum, usually 3 or 4 different things. So this is kind of it's billed in the rulebook as a trick-taking game. I think it's more accurate to call it a shedding game, which can sometimes be a subset of trick-taking. But the most basic example I'll give is if you've played the classic card game President, which also has had tons of other different names, but the idea is one person will start by playing either a single card from their hand or multiple cards, and then everyone has to kind of obey the, I don't want to say the rules, but the format of the card that was played. So let's say I play a pair of 2s. Well, then the next person, well, in this case, it's a bad example because the 2s are high in this game, but let's say I play a pair of 3s. Then Dylann will have to play a higher pair. So it can be 4s, but he can also just go right into a pair of jacks. He can't play 3 jacks. It has to be a pair. Other players can pass, whatever, whoever kind of, once everyone else has passed or it comes back around, let's say someone beats my pair of threes with a pair of jacks, comes back to me, I can now play like a pair of queens. Once everyone has passed and the one player is kind of set or whatever that they've played, I think it's called a meld is the official term. Everyone else has passed, that player wins, they set the cards aside, and then they kind of get to lead the next one. So being able to lead means you're in control of, now I can just play a high card, I can play an ace and see can anyone beat that single ace. There's certain other cards that you can play. You can play things like a bomb, which is like 4 identical cards of the same value. There's all this kind of stuff, but the main hook of the game is that these cards have 2 halves to them, sort of like Scout. You start off with the weaker side is the white side, and then on the bottom is the blue side, which is kind of like the really strong, overpowered side. And initially you can only play cards from the top half. And let's say when you play, let's say those pair of threes, let's say Dylann had played a pair of jacks, then if it came around to me and I passed and Dylann ended up winning the hand, I would get those cards back in my hand, but they would flip upside down, and now whatever was on that blue side is in my hand, and those are going to have like, instead of being a jack on each one of them might have like a pair of queens, or it might have a 3 of a kind, or it might have like, an ace with a certain icon that does some things. There's like fire and water and bamboo symbols, and there's panda symbols. I won't get into what any of those do. I'll leave it at that for rules. It's the first, as soon as someone crosses 15 points in a round, that's the last round, and then you just see who has the most points, and that player wins.
Which doesn't take very long. Like this, I don't know if you mentioned, but this is this is easily a game when you know how to play. You're playing like 25, 30 minutes.
Yes. And as soon as one player goes, as soon as you have emptied your hand completely, the first player to do that, you score points equal to whichever player has the most cards left in their hand at a maximum of 7. So, and our game, I think we only ended up playing 3 rounds, right? So I was very impressed with this game. Well, Dylann was explaining the rules, and there's no disservice to you at all, or discredit to you. I was confused, as I usually am with every Carl Chuddick game I've played. The first time I was like, I don't understand, we have to play. Once we got like a third of the way in, we were all kind of like, oh, I see what's going on. But the more we played, we kept going, oh, and you can do it. Oh, this is brilliant. Like we kept looking around being like, this is genius.
The aha moments were fast and furious. Yeah.
I think this was our first time playing for all 5 of us. I think it probably took around an hour or maybe a bit more, but we did have to check the rules a couple times. I think within the next, even if we had played it immediately after, it would have probably gone down already to like 30, 40 minute range. Yeah. So, and that's the case. Same thing with when we played a GNC. It was like 2 hours the first time. Next time was already an hour, I think. His games have that really steep learning curve, but I think this is one that could have like an incredible amount of replayability. I'll wait, but this was definitely one of the highlights of the weekend for me. I was blown away by this design. It's a shared copy that we bought, and I'm already wondering if this is something I need to buy for my own collection one day, because I really enjoyed it. And I don't have a ton of these shedding games. I have Chuhan, which plays with 2 players only. Obviously, Scout is like this, but feels very different. Because it doesn't have to do with the order of your hand in this, but the abilities, the potential that you can do in this. There's more potential for clever plays in this than Scout for sure.
Yeah. It's just interesting that you want to lose tricks or whatever. Like you want to lose at times or are hoping to lose because you're playing cards that have really powerful options on the blue side. And you might think like, yes, even if I win, I do get rid of those cards, which the ultimate goal is get rid of all the cards in your hand. So it's not that winning is bad. It's just that you're also looking ahead being like, but I have cards in my hand that might be hard to play. Unless I get these that now enhance what I can do with them. Now I can make a run. Now I can do a 4 of a kind. Now I have a bomb, whatever. Yeah. And so there was numerous times where someone won a trick and said, oh, I really didn't want to win that. And that's just a unique thing to come out of this style of game where you have to, like, there was times where Carlo, I think one time specifically, you played something and you were like essentially challenging us, being like, yeah, like beat it, because then I get this back and
like,
it's super powerful.
Look what's going back into my hand.
You want to lose, yeah. So I was also very impressed. Like it's super interesting when you get those blue cards. You also, then if you use the blue cards in a trick, even if you lose, if there was white and blue cards present in what you played and you lose, you don't get to take the white cards back and flip them. Because there's a blue card present, you lose everything. And so then when you're playing white cards in conjunction with blue cards, you're having to think, okay, am I willing to like lose this, or am I really wanting to flip that because of something else? Yeah. There's just a lot of decision space moments that come about in the game that you don't expect from such this type of card game. Yeah. I've played these types of card games before. There's a whole bunch of different names for them in different regions of the world. They have their own versions of them that I've been taught and stuff. And this one does it in a way that it's the first time I felt really surprised and blown away by that type of game, which I think is a big testament to the fact that that he was able to take this like familiar design and then put his own Chuddick spin on it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just such an interesting game. Was there anything that you didn't like about it that you can think of?
Nothing that I know, nothing that jumped out that I left saying, okay, here's one thing I didn't like. I would have to play it more to see if there's something that like is more of like a sticking point. But after one play, honestly, most of what I left was just being impressed.
Okay. I will say, because I went out first in at least 2 of the rounds, or maybe it was all 3, the one thing that bothered me a little bit was the player elimination / downtime. It's not that I was eliminated, but because I went out first, like one of the rounds, I was like, okay, I'll go clear off our garbage and recycling in the bins. I went to use the bathroom. I came back. I might have been gone from the table for 5 or 10 minutes. And when I came back, you guys were still in the round. So I remember thinking, like, if I was just sitting at the table, like, yeah, it's an entertaining game to watch, but if it is a 25, 30-minute game and you're potentially sitting there for 5 or 10 minutes of that time, it can feel like maybe a bit much of your total time.
I do have a feeling that once we get it down to its intended 30-minute game, that the downtime will probably only be like 5 minutes.
I agree.
That's my guess, only because again, having played those type of games, there's more going on in this one, but they can, once you know, everyone knows the rules and you know the strategy and you're just playing cards, these things can go pretty quick.
Yeah.
And so I think eventually that won't be an issue, but I agree, like as part of the experience you're going to have when you first get into Panda Spin with the steeper learning curve, you're also going to have this steep downtime for some people that almost feels like, I got out first, but now I got to wait for everyone, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want to like say for sure, but I just have a feeling that will change over time. But we'll see.
But yeah, the hand management. Just, do I save these cards for later?
Yeah.
Can I make them bet? If I have a pair now, can I have 4 of a kind later, or do I use this to bully people? Very thinky, great game.
So good. After that, Carlo.
I had to leave after that, so that was the end of my Gameitoba weekend.
So after that, myself, Braden, and our friends Raj and Dave played Gazebo, which is a new Knizia game from Bitewing Games as well, which was also sent to us as a review copy. And so we played this for the first time. I knew a little bit about it. I didn't know the game that it was based off of, I knew of it, but I didn't play the game that it was based off of, which is, how do you pronounce it?
I can't remember if it's Qin or Keen, but it's called Qin.
Yes. And so I knew little bits, but not a lot going in. It was just that it looked really neat to me as it was set up. This was kind of this abstract tile placement game, domino placement game of having to like just shed all your gazebos first. Whoever gets rid of all the gazebos first wins. And so I went into it, not a lot of expectations, and I really liked it. Like, I don't know how much I'm going to like it over time. I have played it since that convention at 2 players, and I'm already pretty confident it's going to be better and best as a 2-player game. But essentially, like, these dominoes have 2 different colors on them, and you don't have to place the dominoes next to the same colors, but you're incentivized to anytime you create a new nook, and a nook is anything that has at least 2 of the same color touching, you're able to take one of your gazebos and put it onto that tile. And again, you're trying to get rid of your gazebos, so you're incentivized to do that as much as possible. If you're able to expand a nook into at least 5 of the same color by placing subsequent dominoes by any player, it becomes a big nook, and now you get to take a second gazebo and put it on top of that gazebo that you already had. There's also ways to absorb nooks, which is my favorite part, and it came up way more in a 2-player game, and it was like, that is what took the game another step up for me, which is if I have a pink nook being created over here and my opponent has a pink nook here, and someone places a domino to connect those 2 pink nooks, you look at which one besides the one that you're just placing, which one was the bigger nook, and the other person gets bumped off completely, and now that nook is one person's big nook.
Oh, and tiles like leave the board.
Yeah, the gazebos leave the board.
Wow, okay.
The tiles stay on, the gazebos go off.
Okay, I'm going to remind me to ask you a question to Tigris and Euphrates after that.
So the Tigris and Euphrates comparison came up a lot while we were playing.
Okay, interesting.
So it has elements of other Knizia games in it, and so it is this thing where there's also actual patios, that's what they're called, on the board that are essentially like majority area control spots, where if you place a nook next to one of these spots, you now can put a gazebo onto it. But if someone else has more gazebos than you adjacent to that, they remove yours and put theirs on. And so there's swings that'll happen where all of a sudden, like this happened in the 2-player game I did, but just as an example, I did something that absorbed 2 different nooks. I took control of the nook. So now I only had 1 gazebo on it before, but because now it was at least 5, I got to put a second gazebo on mine. So now I put a second. That in conjunction was next to a patio that I wasn't winning, but now had more on. So I also took control of that. So in the swing was that I essentially added 3 gazebos to the board and made my opponent remove 3 gazebos from the board. So that's like a 6 gazebo swing. Yeah. And so those moments is where it is shining for me. But there are moments too where it just feels like, the one thing I'll say is that in both the games that I played 2 players, I won, and the game that we played at Gameitoba, Dave won. And there was a moment in all those games near the end where it just seemed like there was no way to stop the person from winning. And so it did get to the point where it just felt like we were carrying out the turns. And yes, you're looking for opportunities, being like, okay, where can we bump Gazebos off from Dave? Because otherwise, as long as he can keep making a match of at least 2 colors, he's going to keep putting Gazebos on the board. And he only has 3 left. So we essentially have 3 turns left. But if all of a sudden we don't see any ways to get his Gazebos gone, it can feel like we're just playing out the motions of a Dave win sort of thing. And that's how I felt even in the 2-player game. So that's my only concern. But I wonder if the better you get at the game, the better you get at never making it seem so over that early. You're able to stop it earlier.
Well, I was going to ask if you think it's a runaway leader problem or more of a player experience problem, because I know a lot of people say that is an issue for them with Tigris and Euphrates. And the first few times I played it, I thought the same thing. Like, once this player is so powerful, like, what can we do? But after playing it more, I started realizing, no, that was just me not understanding the game well enough to be able to stop them, especially in conjunction with the other players. So I think if you can spot it, it's a matter of spotting it early enough to be able to take them down a peg before the runaway, runaway leader thing happens. Yeah. But what do you suspect it's?
So that's where I don't know. Like, the runaway leader thing felt like an issue in all 3 games we played, but not every game we played. There's people that are playing it for the first time, right? And myself, even I've only played it 3 times now, and so I don't know whether if you have 2 people who each play 10 times and you're playing 2 players and you're playing competitively, whether at that point you never really have a runaway leader unless you've really, like, it's on you for letting that person run away with it at that point. So I'll say, like, I really enjoyed it. I want to play it more. It's a good experience, but I know I would be shocked if this is a game you end up being like, oh my God, I love this game because of your experience with Tigris and Euphrates. I just have this feeling.
Even though, but you said it's probably best with 2, and Tigris and Euphrates is one I would never choose to play with 2. Is this, like, do you think could fill that? Like,
it could. It very well could. And I just know that based on the comments that Dave and Braden said, like, it almost made them be like they made them positively bring up Tigris and Euphrates. And so I wonder if all of you will say, yes, it's good, but in what world will I ever say I want to play Gazebo when we have at least 3 players then, versus I will just play Tigris and Euphrates. But yeah, 2 players, super strong as just it's a game that almost sometimes feels like it was made to be a 2-player game, and they've just found a way to accommodate it at a higher player count. My only weird complaint is I usually love cloth boards in games, like mandala and patterns and stuff, the way that they use it and lay them out. This one, it honestly probably could just be that I need to iron it and stuff like that, but any folds in the boards cause the dominoes to be slightly askew, and then the gazebos slide off the dominoes. And so we were picking up gazebos constantly in not only at Gameitoba, but then when I played it as a 2-player game as well, even on a hard surface like this. So this is the one time where I was like, I almost wish there had been a board in there so everything could sit nice and
You've
flush.
been in the hobby for how many years? And this is probably the first time I've ever heard you talk about considering ironing a game component.
Seriously. So yeah, that's something that I think over time I could be like, I wish that there was just an actual physical hard board for this, but we'll see. I don't want to really speak on that, but overall, I enjoyed it.
Okay, 2 quick things. Yeah. Of a lot of the Reiner Knizia games we play, tile laying games, once you put something on the board, it's there, it stays. Tigris and Euphrates, Babylonia, Blue Lagoon, all these. Tigris and Euphrates is one of the only ones did I say Tigris and Euphrates when I meant to say Through the Desert?
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant to say Through the Desert, I'm realizing. Tigris and Euphrates is one of the only ones where your stuff can actually be removed from the board, and I know that's one of the things you haven't liked about it. Yeah. Did that bother you as much in this one as in Tigris and Euphrates?
No, because the dominoes are all stained. Dominoes never get removed, so it's just your gazebos, and it doesn't happen frequent. Well, I mean, it happens, but it doesn't happen so frequently enough where it feels like it completely derails your strategy. All it does is I have 5 gazebos left. Oh shoot, now I have 8. So you're having to think about, okay, I'm not trying to race towards a victory. Now I'm trying to be where do I strategically take something over so I do a swing, right? It didn't quite feel the same to me as Tigris and Euphrates, and this one also had the benefit of I learned it in person, whereas it'll always have been a detriment that I think I learned Tigris and Euphrates over BGA. Yeah. So I think I need yeah, anyways, I think that was that's the distinction I would make between them.
Okay, and last thing, on the spot right now, we'll come back to this when we actually review this game later, but right now, regardless of different player counts, whatever, rank these 3 domino games from 1 to 3 in terms of which ones you like most. Gazebo, Renature, and King Domino.
King Domino at the bottom. Even though I like it, that would be the bottom.
Wow, okay, I was not expecting that.
And then... yeah, that's a tough one you're putting me on the spot with here. I'll still put Renature above Gazebo, but I will say there's enough that I'm liking from this, and because I've never been as in love with Renature as you are, there is a chance that I think I could love Gazebo more if it shines continues to shine as a 2-player game. I don't think Gazebo's ever going to shine as much in a 3 or 4-player game that would make it feel better than Renature at 3 and 4. But
Okay, cool.
I could be wrong. Yeah.
It's nice to see like Domino is one of the most classic games. I feel like there's not many domino based games that come out these days. I feel like it's kind of an unexplored space. So I'd like to see more of them.
So that was Gazebo. After this, we played Biblios, which was great. And I don't have a ton to say other than...
How many players?
3. 3-player Biblios. I can't remember if they both said they hadn't played it before. I thought Raj had played it before, but I think he was saying he hadn't. So I did a full teach and everything. Everyone enjoyed it. I won at Biblios. I think this was either the first game that I won all weekend or the second. And up to this point, I finished last for a lot of the games too. But yeah, just always a strong game. I love Biblios. Every time I play it, I reinforce it. This is the most, I said to the guys, this is the most so far I played Biblios in a single year. And then we're only in January.
Amazing.
Yes. So I'm finally getting Biblios to the table the amount that it deserves. And this just reinforces, like, pretty much guarantee that it's definitely not going to go down on my top 50, because having played it this many times and realizing that it's still shining, if anything, I think it now has more of a chance to move up. It's just, such a great game.
Nice. Honestly, when you guys sent me the list of games you played after I left, that was one of the ones where I went, I wish I would have got to play Biblios again.
Really, the most devastating thing about playing Biblios is when I was shuffling, I accidentally bent one of the cards pretty severely. So and
it's out of print.
I know, my otherwise pristine out of print copy.
Better sleeve those. Or iron them out first, then sleeve them.
So that was Biblios. Great time. After this, Carlo will be happy to know I played 2 back-to-back games of Trio.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be happy because I think you played with 3 players, which I told you.
No, we played with 7.
Oh,
sorry, 6. We played
when
with
Dave sent us a screenshot of his BG stats and it only had 3 players showing. Maybe it's just the way the app shows.
No, we played a back-to-back with 6 players.
Well,
No, it was great. We just really recently talked about Trio. I don't want to get into the rules a bunch again, but essentially you're just trying to make trios on the table. If you get all 3 7s, you instantly win, and you're asking your opponents, what's your lowest card, what's your highest card, or you're flipping a card on the front of the table. And as soon as you flip 2 different cards, you're stopping. You're using memory that way to remember what people have. And as soon as you find 3, you put them down in front of you.
Multiplayer Go Fish.
Yes, exactly. I will just highlight the second game where I started the game. With 6 players, you start with 5 cards in your hand. I started the game where I had my highest card was a 7, and I had 2 7s.
Oh wow!
Okay, and so I immediately in my head I said my entire strategy of this game is I don't care if I unless it really hinders me. All I'm going to try to do is just figure out where the other 7 is until someone either grabs the 7, whatever. And so the game was going on, and I could not figure where the other 7 was, but I wanted to hide because people figured out really quickly what my highest card was. But no one asked me twice in a row what my highest card was, so no one knew I had the second 7. And so I was trying to not make that obvious, and eventually it got down to the point where I'm like, I'm pretty sure one of these 2 people has the 7 based on the other information I had.
And is it their lowest or highest card?
Exactly.
Right?
And so across from me, another person we were playing with from our Discord, Ashley, she had revealed something, which my middle card was a 6. And I had, I knew where all the 6s were now, based on because she had a 6. And so I could spend my turn getting that trio, but I'm like, well, what am I doing spending my turn doing that when I know I'm trying to win by 7s? And so I was like, I've gotten it down to 2 people, and if I can figure it out right now, I just win the game. And so I looked to Raj, and I was like, I'm just going to go with Raj that he has it. And I said, Raj, what's your lowest card? And he flipped a 7, and I won the game immediately. So that one victory almost bumped Trio up for me, just because of the fact that I could have an opening hand like that and have it dictate my entire strategy on such a simple card game felt really good for what I like out of games.
Yeah.
So
you saw the memory, you saw the deduction at play, you saw the laughing and that.
Definitely
involved.
grew for me. I still I don't think I'm gonna like it as much as you do, but the verdict's out on how much I'll have to play Scout and Trio to know for sure how I feel about both of them. I still think I like Scout more now, but 2 great games of Trio. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and just to be clear, because some people might have thought that it's an 8 out of 10 for me. It's not one of the greatest games I've ever played. It just for that time frame and player count is excellent game. But I'm glad you guys got to play it, especially with 6 players.
Very impressive. After that, we played 2 back-to-back games of No Thanks.
Also
nice. Really good game. I had never played it in person, or if I had, I forgot. I played lots in BGA or a few times in BGA years ago, but actually being able to handle the little black discs that you put onto the cards and everything was really great. The decisions in it were really grueling. I did not win, but in the first game, it was coming around to me, and I only had the 6 and the 9 in front of me, and that's it. And so I was very much in position to win, and there was only 1 card left in the deck, and I had no of the black chips left. And so I was hoping someone was going to have to take it before it got back to me, and Raj was next to me, almost did, and then I ended up having to take a 25, and that caused me to lose the game.
Oh, yeah.
So it was very close, but yeah, great game. Everyone enjoyed it in person. Raj and a couple other people who hadn't played it before left saying like that was a really good game, like, and acting like they wanted to get it for themselves, which is really strong. So just a really solid little card game that I know.
I'll say the only reason why I haven't bought it yet is because it feels like it's in a similar space as For Sale, and I've always been like, will I pick this ahead of For Sale? But each time I play it, whether it's in person or Board Game Arena, I'm like, it's such a classic game, and I think it's probably even easier to teach like more like intro gamers than For Sale. So it's one I'll probably end up buying one day as just a great, reliably good game all the time.
Yeah. So good.
Really glad you guys got to play that, and I'm kind of sad I missed out on it.
Yeah.
What else?
Second last game I played was Stonespine Architects, a game that I played, and we talked about a little bit on the channel. I've played a bunch on BGA, but finally played the physical version.
Just real quick, this was a review copy we've received as well from Thunderworks Games.
Yep, and we talked about it in our complexity video as well. This it continues to land in the physical version. If anything, the physical version now, the one thing it always has going against it over the BGA since I played that so much is that there is like not a lot of things to set up, but there's a few different pieces. There's a market board, and there's the actual scoring cards that you're setting up. There's the end game scoring card. There's the priority tokens and how you do those. There's all those little fiddly things you're having to do that would otherwise, if a lot of those weren't present, it feels like this game would be like a 20-minute game, and that kind of adds to the playing time a bit. But we got it all done in an hour, even though most of the people at the table besides me hadn't played it before.
Okay,
and so that's still
five.
Really,
you played with 5 players?
I think it was the full 5. Pretty sure. And so very, very strong game. Everyone enjoyed it. This is one where again you're just building your dungeon in front of you row by row. There's 4 rounds. Every round is a row of your dungeon, and you're just drafting cards. You just have a hand of cards. You take a room, put it into that top row of your dungeon, pass it, and you keep doing that until your entire row is built. And then you have a market that you can buy from. The gold that you have for the market is determined by the gold that's listed on the cards that you drafted. So you're having to balance how much gold do I need versus how good are these rooms that I want. And you didn't buy stuff from the market to put into those rooms to sort of like supplement things you're missing based on a little key card that you have that says you want to have a goblin in this room, you want to have a certain color of room over here, and you're trying to follow that as well as you can, but you're also picking up scoring objectives as you're going. And as soon as you take a scoring objective, you have to pass for the rest of the market. So it's like, do I get the scoring objective I really want, or do I keep buying stuff with my gold from the market, but someone else might take that scoring objective before I have a chance? So really fun, lots of different strategies at play, and like generally, like I was gonna say close game, but it wasn't like everyone had like 2-point spread. It felt like it was like, I think winning score was like 105 or 95 or something like that, and then it was like 10 points, 10 points, 10. But like it felt like a decent like spread across them. But everyone like did well with their strategy. There was lots of key moments where something I wanted was taken based on my inability to be decisive early on. And so yeah, I'm continue to be impressed by this one. This honestly feels like one of the stronger closed drafting games that I've played in the last bit. I just really like the idea of having to build your dungeon. Yeah. I like, and the more, this one is taking me a few plays to start to really weigh what other people are doing. I mentioned that in the last video, but when that starts to inject itself and when I start to be able to prioritize thinking about what everyone else is taking, what's on their boards, and then trying to disrupt them, it adds a whole other element that it sort of is inviting you to participate in, like that is meant to be part of what you're engaging in, and that opens up more doors. Yeah, I'm very impressed by this one.
Nice. So having played it at the max player count in person, I know the drafting is all simultaneous, but did you find there was like a significant amount of downtime other than the drafting? Like outside
Not really.
Of that? No?
Like we also allowed it that like we didn't have to wait for everyone to finish and then draft. We would just have like decks sort of stacked up next to each other if someone had a few decks to go. Yep. And so it always felt like sometimes people would finish first, but then you're also then able to look at the goal jab and you're starting to think about the market. And so there's enough, because the game has so many things to consider and so many things to score for, if you end up with that downtime, it always felt like there was something I could be doing with my downtime.
Or thinking about, because there's something okay. So not a lot of, most of your hour was like pretty invested thinking about the game, not waiting around.
I still think 4 will probably be the sweet spot where you still have a lot of player interaction, a lot of things to consider, but you do get one less player of that's kind of making the game a little bit longer. But again, when you like are really, if everyone knows the game and you played it a bunch, it might not matter, and having that 5th player might just make it more competitive and more fighty. So 4 or 5 feels like a strong place for this, and I'm really impressed by it. Like
awesome.
It's
I'm
really
looking forward to playing it again, not only on BGA but especially in person to see what I think of the physical copy.
Yeah, and then the last game I played is a game we've talked about multiple times, and lots of people have, and that's Raw. So it had been a while since I played it, but I remember we got a quick little rules refresher, but I remembered most of the rules. I did very well this game.
How many players? Sorry.
4.
Okay.
4, I believe. Yes, 4 players.
Okay.
4 players. So it was myself, Dave, Raj, and Michaela. And it was. I won. I haven't done this well at Raw. I don't think any of the times I've played. But Dave was having the worst luck you've ever seen in terms of drawing the raw tiles out of the bag. Okay. It was devastating. Like I think out of the 4 or 3 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds, whatever, 3 rounds. Then the final 2 rounds, essentially. So 2/3 of Dave's game, he ended where he was the only one left in, and he had 2.
Oh, I was gonna ask if that happened.
Yeah,
okay.
And he had 2 of his discs left. Like, and one of them because in the last round he only had like the 1, the 5, and the 8 going in or something. But whatever it was, both times he drew a tile, and then drew the raw tile, and then had to take it, and the next one just drew the raw tile straight up. Like, it was just the worst luck you've ever seen, and no one else was drawing raw tiles. Like, it was devastating for Dave. But like, yeah, just such a great game. Like, I love the set collection element of it, but I love that the right half goes away and you have to kind of balance that each round, and you're also like building up this long-term commitment type stuff on the left side. I love the interaction with the flood and the rivers that I'm understanding more and more, and how, like, yes, those go away, but they are then being able to score how much you're collecting ultimately for these rivers.
Yeah, and the floods, or whichever one is the one that you need 1 to activate all the other ones, become more and more valuable later in the game, because you're like, someone has all those, I think it's the flood to make the Nile ones, but whatever it is, it's interesting. Yeah,
and I'm going to get the names of all the tiles wrong, but whatever, either the Pharaoh tiles or the ones that are green. Yeah. So I did a really good job of collecting those, and I prioritized them in a way that really benefited me throughout the game, but having to I had to manage it. Like, I had to stop people from getting it. I had to call, invoke Raw a few different times because I saw that if any more come up, it's going to be problematic, and then someone might want to fight me for it. And so I didn't want them to fight me for it. I wanted them to have to weigh, well, I could take those, but I'll still have less than Dylann. So is it worth it? I didn't want them to look at it and say, if I take this, I now am in the lead on them. And then Raj ended up with, he was sitting to my right, and he ended up with going into the final round, the 13 and the 11 and the 12 was on the board. So he had the 2 highest bids in the game, which means he could really just kind of take what he wanted. So I had to, and no one else was invoking Raj, so I had to keep being the one being like, I can't let this run away so that Raj can just take this whole thing. So I had to keep invoking Raj.
I was gonna say, that's who you keep invoking.
And he I think he was being like, why are you invoking Raj so much? I'm like, someone has to stop you. But yeah, just great. Like, it's a game I knew for a while I have to own my own copy, and I want to even get the Traders expansion from what I've heard about that on a couple other, I can't remember which podcast it was. It might have been Decision Space that I was listening to recently, that they were talking about Raw, and based on what I've heard about the Traders expansion, I really want to get that. Like, there's so much more to explore here for me. It just reinforced all that, it's making me want to prioritize buying my own copy even sooner. And I just know 100% this is a game that's now going to exist in my top 50 in a strong way. It's just, where is it going to end up, and how high will it climb? Yeah.
Great game. I've spoken about it on the channel a few times as well. I will just say, just going back to what you said, I think the best part of the game is that value assessment, which is one of my favorite things in all the board games, of seeing the tiles out there and trying to determine, how valuable is that to me? How valuable is it to this player or that player? Looking at everyone's bidding tokens, what's the token there? There's no way to, there's no mathematical formula that you can solve it to say, this is clearly the best. There are certain turns where it comes around to you where you know whether you should bid or pass. There have been some times where I feel like the decision is obvious, but the longer the game goes and the more tiles are there, that's where it starts to really kind of break your brain, and you have to almost play more on gut instinct, and that's, I think, where the game shines.
Yeah, so good. And so that was everything we played. So why don't we talk about, out of all these great games, I'll say I didn't play any bad games. So that's a really good sign. But out of all these, what are the top 3 sessions that we had?
Okay. You want me to go first?
Yeah, and let's start from, let's make it dramatic, 3-1.
3-1. Okay, it's hard. Let me just take a second, because I think I know what my top 2 were.
Here, how about I go first, because I know mine.
Sure, then you go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so my 3rd best play of the weekend was Raw. Okay. So I am going to slot Raw in there, just reinforce it. Such a good game. Number 2, I'm giving to Ego.
Okay, nice.
I just new play, impressed me. I want the tons more I want to dig into. So just easy slotted for number 2. And it was number 1 until this little game of old pandas came around here and just blew me away. Panda Spin. It's so good. I don't know how it's going to land with me over time. I know this could change, but off that one play, it's good enough that it made me just swear in this video. And I got to bleep this out. Panda Spin's so great. Carl Chudek, he's done it again.
Yeah. All right. I will say, I keep waffling. My number 3 is I'm struggling between Ego and For Sale. They're in very different spots because For Sale I've played like over 100 times and Ego was at first place. So, you know what? If I was going off novelty, I would say Ego, but I'm just going to say For Sale because just start to finish, it was so smooth. Whereas I feel Ego, even though I love learning a new game and the Knizia, it was a great experience, there were a couple times where it slowed down a little bit for my liking just because of a first place. So we'll say third was For Sale. Second was Challengers because it's always great, and playing with 6 players in a convention like that was great. And number 1 for me was also Panda Spin. So I just, Carl Chuddik, he really has done it again. It's made a stronger first impression than a GNC did. So I think I've played 3. I think it's just those 2 in Innovation that I've played. Currently, I would say this is my number 2 Chuddik game after Innovation. But just I didn't really see it coming. Like I would have bought my own copy if I thought I was going to like it this much before, but I was like, it'd be cool for us to try it, have a copy available for the channel, and now I'm like, are there other copies out there for sale? Am I going to be able to?
I'm pretty sure we'll both have our own copy. Like basically, as soon as another copy is available, I'm almost at the point where I think I'll just like, if I'm at Victory Appliance and it's there, I'll just buy it because I can't see a world where we're not going to be in situations where we might want to play it and we're not together.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was going to be your number 1 as well, but that's awesome. We've such a good game.
And so before we close this, is there anything else about the gaming convention, about the weekend, like takeaways? Is there anything else that you would, take away from this in terms of your experience going forward to like next Gameitoba or another convention?
All I would say is I think, honestly, it came together after the first day, like going there on the Friday and just playing 1 game of Hot Streak and those 3 games of That's Not a Hat. I remember thinking, like, I got to make it a bit more of a priority to play some smaller player count games that I really want to play rather than just prioritizing let's get as many people together as we can for 1 game. And I think the Saturday ended up being like about as good as I could have expected when you're, trying to like, again, work around what you want, what other people want, trying to get everyone together kind of thing. The fact that we got to watch that game of Ready, Set, Bet, and we got to play a 6-player challengers and stuff, but we also got to play some smaller games, and that it wasn't always with the same people. Like, we played with our group who we kind of like went there with, but then other people we met, like Ashley and Michaela jumped in with games. We had other people. We played a game with, I don't want to call him the other Dylann, but I'm just saying Dylann and Dylann talking. And so it was nice to play some games with other people. But I also still ended up feeling like there were people there who I either just like said hi to for a minute that I didn't get to play with, or who I saw across the gym who were busy in their own games. So it's kind of hard, especially when you're not there for the full weekend or you don't make a plan in advance to schedule certain games. So I don't know if I say I have any regrets, but I'll definitely use this to influence the way I plan things a bit more next year and in subsequent years. But just comparing it to the 2 years ago when I went to Gameitoba, this was a better overall experience and very memorable. Every single game that I played, like I left being like, that was awesome. And I was just happy with the weekend overall. And big shout out to everyone, the folks who run Gameitoba. The convention went off in my opinion, it seemed like without a hitch. Like the venue is really nice and spacious. Everything is very like clean. They have like food there and snacks, and like everyone was just so friendly. Lots of people stopped by to be like, oh, what are you playing? That looks cool. So just, I really don't have any negatives that I can think of about the convention. So it was a great time.
Nice. Yeah, I echo all that. Like, it was really great time. I had pretty much, like I was only there for the Saturday, but it went exactly as I would have hoped. Played so many games, sort of like nonstop. Where I was able to play with a bunch of people from our Discord and our community that I hadn't played games with before, but I've interacted with. I want to give a shout out to Linnea as well, who brought, we played, I can't remember if it was Dave's copy of Trio, but she was in that game, and then with her copy of No Thanks, and so that was where we were able to play No Thanks.
She was one of the ones I saw her playing a game with Kyle on the other side of the gym, and it was the first time I saw her that weekend as I was leaving on the Saturday. So that was.
Yeah, and so it was just like, it's always nice to interact with people in our Discord and play with people in our community. The big takeaway for me is what I went in sort of like thinking, and I sort of got reinforced, is just for me at these conventions, I feel like the max player count I want to play with, and I will play more, but the one I'm going to like target is like sort of capping out at 6.
Yeah.
And even more so capping out like 6 for maybe a couple games, and then 5 being sort of like the more hard cap. And that's because there's just so many games, even at 4, that don't go higher, that I want to play when I have these opportunities at this convention, and being able to max with that player count. I don't necessarily need to play with the same people every time, and I'm happy to jump from group to group, but I want to sort of have that more intimate setting where it still feels like a full board game, but it doesn't feel like I'm overwhelmed both socially and mentally by like having to manage what that many people are doing, meeting that many strangers for the first time. I want to have those moments for Ready, Set, Bet or Hot Streak, where That's Not a Hat, or like any of those type of party games, right? But I want to also have the much more of those. I'm sitting down to play a strategic board game while I'm meeting people for the first time, and I'm learning how they played the game. And
and maybe you don't have to worry as much about ensuring, worrying about, is that person having a good time? Is that person having a good time?
Yes,
exactly. I felt that a little bit because I taught Hot Streak and That's Not a Hat, and I knew that some of the people were about to play a 6-player Veiled Fate, and they instead shifted to That's Not a Hat to accommodate me, even though I insisted otherwise. And then I was kind of like, oh, I feel bad. Are they enjoying it enough? Are the rules being picked up on well enough, and that kind of thing. I will also say really quick, I have to give a shout out to Kyle from our Discord, Dr. Krieg, because we've said before what a nice guy he is, but this was a -45 with the wind chill kind of weekend. He was messaging in the Discord saying oh, I have extra battery chargers in my car if anyone's car doesn't start. Then at one point I checked halfway through the day and he had asked oh, I'm going on a food run. Does anyone need food? And just just shout out Kyle. You're great. And thanks for always being so thoughtful.
Yeah, great shout out. And that's it. Those are the games we played. If you played any of these games for the first time, let us know in the comments what you thought of them. Let us know what you think we'll think over multiple plays for some of the ones that we've only played for the first time, like Ego, Panda Spin. Very curious to hear. And otherwise, if you have any opportunities to get out to conventions where you live just to play games, it's a great time. I would highly recommend it. Even if you just go with your own group and you're going to sit and sort of just be in that environment, you never know who might come around and want to play in a game, or other games you might see opportunities for, or just to feel the encouragement of look how many other people are continuing to play games all day. I'm just going to keep going at the same pace as well. So yeah.
Sorry, I just remembered one regret I have, and I'm going to say it here so that's on record for next year. I brought 3 Freedom and Friesa games. I was hoping to play all of them, and we played 0, probably because they all maxed out at 5. And so Fast Sloths, Free Ride, and Fast Flowing Forest Fellers. Let's make a point to play at least 1 or 2 of those in person next year.
Especially Free Ride and Fast Sloths, because both those are ones I know I'm gonna really, really like, and I just need to play more of them.
I think you're gonna like all 3 of them.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
A real absence of Friesa, but still a great time.
And that's all we got for you. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.